Dr. Marcus Reed had spent 15 years studying wildlife in the remote mountains of Nepal. His weathered hands gripped the steering wheel of his old Jeep as he navigated the rocky path back to his research station. The afternoon sun cast long shadows across the valley below, and he was eager to return before darkness fell. Something glinted in the distance, catching his eye. He stopped the vehicle and reached for his binoculars. Through the lenses, he saw what appeared to be a large cat lying motionless near a cluster of ancient rocks. His heart raced with concern. In all his years in these mountains, he had rarely encountered the elusive snow leopards that called this region home. Marcus grabbed his medical kit and approached carefully. The magnificent creature was indeed a leopard. But unlike any he had ever seen, its fur seemed to shimmer with an otherworldly quality, almost as if tiny stars were embedded within each strand. The animal's breathing was labored, and he could see a deep wound along its left flank. "Easy there. Beautiful," Marcus whispered softly, his voice barely audible above the mountain wind. The leopard's eyes fluttered open, revealing the most stunning blue irises he had ever witnessed. Instead of showing fear or aggression, the animal gazed at him with what seemed like intelligence and desperation. Marcus had treated injured wildlife before, but something about this encounter felt different. The leopard's unusual appearance troubled him. Yet he couldn't abandon a suffering creature. He carefully examined the wound, which appeared to be caused by something sharp and metallic rather than another animal's claws or teeth. Working slowly and speaking in gentle tones, Marcus cleaned the injury and applied antiseptic. The leopard remained remarkably calm throughout the process, occasionally letting out soft sounds that seemed almost like attempts at communication. As he worked, Marcus noticed strange markings on the animal's forehead, symbols that looked almost like constellation patterns. The sun was beginning to set, and Marcus knew he needed to make a decision. Leaving the leopard here overnight would likely mean its death, but transporting a wild predator presented obvious dangers. Looking into those extraordinary blue eyes again, he saw something that convinced him to take the risk. "All right, friend, we're going to get you some help," he said, carefully lifting the surprisingly lightweight animal and placing it in the back of his Jeep. The leopard didn't struggle or protest, which struck Marcus as highly unusual behavior for a wild cat. During the bumpy ride back to his station, Marcus kept glancing in his rearview mirror. The leopard lay quietly, its luminescent fur seeming to glow faintly in the dim light. Several times, he could have sworn he saw the animal watching him with those intelligent eyes, as if it understood exactly what was happening. His research station was a modest building equipped with basic veterinary supplies. Marcus had treated everything from injured birds to wounded yaks over the years, but never a snow leopard. He prepared a secure area in his laboratory, using heavy mesh barriers to create a safe space for both himself and his unusual patient. As he settled the leopard into its temporary home, Marcus noticed something that made him pause. The animal's breathing had improved dramatically, and the wound seemed to be healing faster than should be possible. He checked his watch. Only 2 hours had passed since he first applied the treatment, yet the injury appeared to be closing on its own. "What are you?" Marcus murmured, studying the creature more closely. The leopard tilted its head at his words, and for a moment, Marcus felt as though it was trying to answer him. He spent the evening observing his patient, taking notes and photographs. The markings on the leopard's forehead seemed to shift slightly when viewed from different angles, creating patterns that reminded him of star charts he had studied in his youth. The animal's fur continued to emit that subtle luminescence, growing brighter as night fell. Around midnight, Marcus dozed off in his chair while keeping watch. He was awakened by a soft sound, not quite a purr, but something similar. Opening his eyes, he saw the leopard sitting upright, its blue gaze fixed on the window. Following its line of sight, Marcus looked outside and gasped. The night sky was alive with shooting stars, more than he had ever seen in one display. The meteors seemed to be falling in the exact patterns that matched the markings on the leopard's forehead. As he watched in amazement, the animal let out a low, melodic call that seemed to resonate with the celestial show above. Marcus rubbed his eyes, wondering if exhaustion was causing him to imagine things. But when he looked again, both the meteor shower and the leopard's strange behavior continued. The animal turned to look at him. And in that moment, Marcus felt a connection he couldn't explain, as if the creature was trying to communicate something important. The leopard moved closer to the barrier that separated them, pressing its face against the mesh. Its nose touched something Marcus hadn't noticed before, a small, crystalline object embedded in the animal's collar, which he had assumed was just decorative. The crystal began to glow with the same soft light as the leopard's fur. Marcus reached out instinctively, and when his finger made contact with the crystal through the mesh, images flashed through his mind. He saw vast spaces filled with stars, beings of light, and most clearly, a sense of urgency and purpose that the leopard was somehow trying to convey. As dawn approached, the meteor shower faded, and the leopard settled down to rest. Marcus sat in his chair, mind racing with questions and possibilities he had never considered before. Everything he thought he knew about the natural world seemed insufficient to explain what he had witnessed. He looked at his notes from the previous evening, then at the peacefully sleeping leopard. Whatever this creature truly was, Marcus knew his life had just taken an extraordinary turn. The next morning, Marcus awoke to find the leopard fully healed. Where the deep wound had been, only a faint line remained visible beneath its shimmering fur. He checked his medical equipment twice, convinced he must have made an error in his initial assessment, but his photographs from the night before clearly showed the severity of the original injury. The leopard watched him with those penetrating blue eyes as he prepared food. Marcus had brought various meats suitable for big cats, but when he offered them, the animal showed no interest. Instead, it pointed with its nose toward a bowl of water, then to the window facing east where the morning sun was rising. Curious, Marcus placed the water bowl in a patch of sunlight. To his amazement, the leopard began to drink, and as it did so, the water seemed to sparkle and shimmer. The creature appeared to be sustaining itself through some process Marcus had never witnessed before. After drinking, the leopard seemed more energetic and alert, its coat growing even more luminescent. Over the following days, Marcus established a routine of caring for his mysterious guest. He discovered that the leopard was incredibly intelligent, capable of understanding complex instructions, and even solving simple puzzles he created. When Marcus drew constellation maps for his astronomical hobby, the leopard would approach and tap specific stars with its paw, always pointing to the same region of space. Communication between them evolved beyond anything Marcus thought possible with a wild animal. The leopard would bring him objects, stones, pieces of metal, even flowers, arranged in patterns that seemed meaningful. Marcus began to recognize that these arrangements matched mathematical sequences and geometric shapes found in advanced physics textbooks. One afternoon, while reviewing his research notes, Marcus noticed the leopard had begun creating intricate patterns in the dirt floor of its enclosure using its claws. The designs were incredibly complex, resembling technical diagrams or circuit boards. When Marcus sketched these patterns and showed them to the leopard, the creature became excited, pressing against the barrier and making soft, encouraging sounds. The crystal in the leopard's collar continued to glow intermittently, especially during thunderstorms or when aircraft passed overhead. Marcus began to suspect the object was some kind of advanced technology, though he had no idea how such a thing could exist or where it might have come from. His attempts to contact wildlife authorities were unsuccessful, as his remote location made communication difficult. Part of him felt relieved, as he wasn't sure how to explain what he was experiencing. No zoologist would believe that a snow leopard could demonstrate such intelligence or exhibit such unusual characteristics. During their second week together, Marcus made a breakthrough in understanding his companion. While studying the star patterns the leopard had consistently indicated, he realized they matched the location of a recent supernova observed by astronomers worldwide. The celestial event had occurred just days before he found the injured animal. That evening, as storm clouds gathered overhead, the leopard became restless. It paced its enclosure and made urgent vocalizations unlike anything Marcus had heard before. Lightning flashed across the sky, and each bolt seemed to energize the crystal around the leopard's neck. The object pulsed with increasing intensity until it projected a holographic image into the air. Marcus stared in disbelief as the image showed a spacecraft, sleek, crystalline, and clearly not of human origin. The hologram depicted the vessel traveling through space before being struck by debris from the supernova explosion. He watched as the craft crashed into the mountainside where he had found the leopard, understanding now that the metallic wound had been caused by the impact. The hologram faded, but the leopard continued its urgent behavior. It pressed itself against the barrier and looked directly into Marcus's eyes. In that moment, he felt the same psychic connection from their first night together, but stronger and clearer. Images flooded his mind, not just pictures, but emotions and concepts that transcended human language. He saw that the creature before him was not actually a leopard, but a being from another world who had taken this form for protection and camouflage. The real snow leopard DNA had been integrated with the alien essence, creating a hybrid that could survive on Earth while maintaining the visitor's consciousness and abilities. More disturbing was what Marcus learned about the being's mission. The spacecraft had been carrying something precious, other members of its species who were traveling to Earth seeking refuge from a dying world. The crash had scattered them across the mountainside, and they were now trapped in a dormant state, unable to survive much longer in Earth's atmosphere without assistance. The leopard being's desperate attempts at communication suddenly made perfect sense. It wasn't just seeking help for its own injuries, it was trying to rescue its companions before time ran out. The urgency Marcus felt through their connection was the knowledge that every day of delay meant some of its people might not survive. Marcus looked at the maps and diagrams the leopard had created with new understanding. They weren't random patterns or simple communication attempts. They were precise coordinates and technical specifications for a rescue operation. The being had been trying to guide him to the crash site and show him how to help the others. Thunder rumbled overhead as Marcus faced the most important decision of his life. Everything he thought he knew about reality had been challenged and changed. Before him sat a creature from another world, trusting him with the lives of its people. The logical part of his mind struggled to accept what his eyes and heart told him was true. The leopard approached the barrier one more time, placing its paw against the mesh near Marcus's hand. When they made contact through the barrier, he felt not just the being's gratitude for his care, but also its deep hope that he would choose to help complete the rescue mission. Looking into those blue eyes that had first captured his attention, Marcus realized he had already made his choice. The moment he decided to help an injured animal, he had committed himself to a path that led far beyond anything he could have imagined. Tomorrow, he would begin the most extraordinary rescue mission in human history. The storm intensified outside, but inside the research station, human and alien sat in understanding, preparing for the challenges that lay ahead. Marcus spent the night preparing for their journey to the crash site. He gathered climbing equipment, emergency medical supplies, and portable heating devices, though he wasn't entirely sure what they would encounter. The leopard being watched his preparations with obvious approval, occasionally nudging items he should include or pointing toward gear he had overlooked. At dawn, Marcus opened the enclosure for the first time since bringing his companion to the station. The being stepped out cautiously, then moved directly to Marcus and rubbed against his leg in a gesture of trust and gratitude. Together, they loaded the jeep and began the treacherous journey into the highest reaches of the mountains. The coordinates led them far beyond any trail Marcus knew, into terrain so remote that no human had likely ever set foot there. The leopard guided him with remarkable precision, indicating turns and paths that weren't visible until they were almost upon them. After 6 hours of difficult driving and hiking, they reached a rocky outcropping that overlooked a hidden valley. Below them lay the wreckage of the spacecraft Marcus had seen in the hologram. The crystalline vessel had shattered upon impact, its pieces scattered across nearly half a mile of mountainside, even broken. The alien technology was beautiful, catching and refracting sunlight in ways that created rainbow patterns across the snow. The leopard being led Marcus down into the valley, moving with purpose toward specific debris locations. At the first crash site, Marcus found what appeared to be a large, smooth stone partially buried in ice. When the leopard touched it with its paw, the object began to glow faintly, and Marcus realized he was looking at another of the alien beings in some kind of protective stasis. Over the next several hours, they located 17 more of the crystalline pods, each containing a dormant alien consciousness. The leopard being showed Marcus how to activate warming devices that were still functional among the wreckage, creating a network of heating elements around each pod to prevent the beings inside from dying in the cold. As they worked, Marcus began to understand the true scope of what had brought these creatures to Earth. Through the psychic connection he now shared with his companion, he learned that their homeworld had been destroyed when their sun went supernova. The survivors had searched the galaxy for planets capable of supporting life, and Earth had been chosen not for conquest, but as a refuge where both species might coexist peacefully. The most shocking revelation came when the leopard being led Marcus to the largest piece of wreckage, what had been the ship's central chamber. Inside, protected by an energy field that still functioned despite the crash, Marcus discovered something that changed everything he thought he understood about the mission. Hundreds of small, glowing spheres floated in organized patterns within the chamber. Each sphere contained genetic material, not just from the alien race, but from thousands of species from their destroyed world. The beings hadn't come to Earth as refugees seeking only their own survival. They had come as guardians of an entire ecosystem, hoping to preserve the biological diversity of their lost planet. Marcus stared at the preserved genetics of an entire world as his alien companion communicated the full tragedy of their situation. Their planet hadn't just supported intelligent life, it had been home to countless unique species, many of which possessed qualities that could benefit Earth's struggling ecosystems. The genetic library represented millions of years of evolution and adaptation, knowledge that could help solve problems from climate change to disease. But the spheres were failing. The energy system that preserved them had been damaged in the crash, and without immediate intervention, this irreplaceable genetic heritage would be lost forever. The leopard being's desperate attempts to communicate hadn't just been about saving its people, it had been trying to save the biological legacy of an entire world. Working together, Marcus and his companion spent 3 days learning to operate the alien technology. The leopard being's knowledge, combined with Marcus's scientific background, proved to be an effective partnership. They managed to repair enough of the energy systems to stabilize the genetic library, buying precious time for a more permanent solution. The awakening of the other survivors was a moment Marcus would never forget. One by one, the beings emerged from their pods, each taking a form adapted to Earth's environment, some as birds, others as various mammals, and a few maintaining their original crystalline appearance. All shared the same luminescent quality and intelligent eyes that had first drawn Marcus to their companion. Communication with the group was established through the same psychic network Marcus had experienced with the leopard being. He learned that their species had been scientists and conservationists on their home world, dedicated to protecting and studying life in all its forms. They had not come to Earth as invaders, but as the last hope for preserving knowledge that could benefit both civilizations. The leader of the group, an elderly being who had taken the form of a magnificent eagle, shared with Marcus a proposal that left him speechless. They wanted to establish a secret research partnership with humanity, sharing their advanced knowledge of genetics and conservation in exchange for help preserving their genetic library and establishing a hidden sanctuary in the remote mountains. Marcus realized that his role had evolved from rescuer to ambassador between two civilizations. The beings were willing to remain hidden, understanding that humanity wasn't ready for open contact with alien life. But they hoped that through careful collaboration with selected humans like Marcus, they could begin building a foundation for eventual peaceful coexistence. Over the following weeks, Marcus helped establish the hidden sanctuary deep within the mountain caves. The genetic library was relocated and secured using a combination of alien technology and human engineering. The survivors settled into their new home, beginning the long process of adapting to Earth while preserving their own heritage. Marcus returned to his research station with the leopard being, who had chosen to remain as his partner in this extraordinary venture. To the outside world, Dr. Marcus Reed continued his wildlife studies as before, but in secret, he was now part of the most important conservation effort in the history of two worlds. The leopard being, who had taught Marcus to call it Stellai, became his constant companion and co-researcher. Together, they worked to develop technologies that could help Earth's endangered species while secretly incorporating knowledge from the genetic library. Their published research papers began attracting attention from conservation organizations worldwide. though none suspected the true source of their revolutionary discoveries. Months later, as Marcus watched Stella playing in the snow outside his station, he reflected on how a simple act of compassion had led to the greatest adventure of his life. He had set out to save one injured animal and ended up becoming the guardian of genetic treasures from across the galaxy. Every day brought new discoveries and deeper understanding between human and alien consciousness. The secret they shared was enormous, but Marcus no longer felt the burden of carrying it alone. He was part of something far greater than himself, a partnership between species that offered hope for the future of life, on Earth and beyond. The stars that had once seemed impossibly distant now felt like neighbors, and the universe had become a far less lonely place.